They laughed when she said she wanted to sing, but that night, the world fell silent. Rain drenched the streets of Los Angeles as Emma, a shy 22-year-old with trembling hands and a second-hand guitar, waited outside the America's Got Talent audition hall. Every rejection she'd ever faced echoed in her mind, the classmates who mocked her, the judges who called her forgettable. But beneath the fear, a quiet voice whispered, "Try one more time." She didn't know this would be the night that changed not only her life, but millions of others watching around the world. The rain was relentless that morning, the kind that soaks through dreams and doubts alike. Outside the America's Got Talent audition hall, hundreds of hopefuls stood in line, laughing, rehearsing, believing. But Emma Carter stood quietly under a broken umbrella, her fingers nervously tracing the edges of her guitar case, the same old one her father had bought from a pawn shop when she was 13. Her sneakers were worn, her jacket thin, and her eyes carried that familiar mix of fear and fragile hope. For years, she'd been told her voice was too soft, her presence too plain. Every audition she'd ever attended ended with the same polite smile and the same cruel sentence, "You just don't have what it takes." Yet here she was again, not because she believed she would win, but because she couldn't live with the regret of never trying. The line inched forward slowly. Emma hummed under her breath, practicing the song she had written for her mother, a song called "Still Here." Her mother used to sing that line to her when times were tough, "We're still here, and that means we're strong." Those words had carried her through years of silence after losing her mom to illness and her confidence to rejection. When she finally reached the front desk, a cheerful volunteer handed her a contestant badge with the number 3487. "Good luck," the woman smiled. Emma nodded faintly, clutching the badge as if it were the last piece of courage she had left. Inside the building, the air buzzed with energy, dancers stretching, magicians rehearsing, singers belting out warm-ups. Emma sat alone in a corner, strumming softly, her trembling fingers brushing the strings like fragile threads of memory. She wasn't the loudest or the flashiest. She was just a girl with a song, one born from pain, but carried by hope. When her number was finally called, her stomach tightened. A stagehand led her down a dim corridor that opened into the blinding lights of the AGT stage. The vast space felt overwhelming, the judges' table gleaming, the audience murmuring, cameras gliding across the room. She could barely hear her heartbeat over the sound of her own fear. Simon Cowell leaned forward slightly, curious. "Hi there. What's your name?" he asked. Her voice trembled. "My name is Emma Carter. And what are you going to do for us today?" She swallowed hard. "I'm going to sing a song I wrote. It's about never giving up, even when nobody believes in you." Simon nodded once. "All right then, Emma. The stage is yours." She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every rejection she'd ever endured pressing down on her shoulders. But then she remembered her mother's voice, gentle, loving, unbreakable. And with that memory glowing faintly in her heart, Emma stepped forward, tightened her grip on the guitar, and whispered to herself. "One more time. Just one more time." And as the first note echoed through the silence, a new chapter began, one the world would never forget. The lights dimmed, and a heavy stillness filled the auditorium. Emma stood center stage, clutching her guitar like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. Her breath trembled. The vast sea of faces blurred into a glowing haze of expectation. For a moment, she almost froze. The spotlight burned down on her, merciless and bright, and every painful memory came flooding back. The failed auditions. The laughter. The rejection letters. The faces of people who once said, "You're chasing a fantasy." She closed her eyes. "Do this for Mom," she whispered to herself. Her thumb brushed against the small silver locket around her neck, her mother's photo inside. And then, she began to play. The first chord rang soft and fragile, almost shy, like a secret shared with the universe. The melody unfolded slowly, delicate yet powerful, each note carrying the weight of every "no" she had ever heard. The song was called Still Here. It wasn't just lyrics, it was her story, her confession, her way of saying I'm still standing even when the world tried to silence me. Her voice started quiet, almost trembling. They said I'd fade, I'd fall apart, but the cracks became where I found my heart. The crowd leaned in. The camera zoomed closer. Something real, something raw, was happening on that stage. As the second verse began, her voice grew steadier. Stronger. The girl who once doubted herself was now bearing her soul before thousands. Every line was a scar turned into poetry. The lights danced softly across her face, revealing tears she didn't bother to hide. By the time she reached the chorus, the emotion was overwhelming. Her voice cracked, just slightly, not from weakness, but from truth. That single imperfection made it perfect. In that instant, you could feel every person in that room holding their breath, not out of pity, but awe. Simon Cowell's expression softened, the rare moment when words failed him. Howie leaned forward, whispering something under his breath. Even Sofia Vergara wiped away a tear. There was something different about this performance. It wasn't polished. It wasn't showy. It was human. The final line came out as a whisper. I'm still here. I'm still here. And then, silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. No claps. No cheers. Just the raw afterglow of something sacred. Then, suddenly, a single clap from the back row. Then another. And within seconds, the entire hall erupted, cheers, whistles, standing ovations. The sound was thunderous, unstoppable, overwhelming. Emma covered her face, tears spilling down her cheeks. She looked up just in time to see Simon standing, slowly clapping, eyes glistening. That, he said softly into the mic, was real. For the first time in her life, Emma wasn't invisible. Her voice, once rejected, once silenced, had broken through. And in that moment, it didn't just fill the room. It touched something deeper, something far beyond the stage. That night, after her breathtaking performance, Emma sat alone in her small one-bedroom apartment, the same place where she'd spent years writing songs that no one had ever heard. The glow from her laptop screen flickered softly against the walls as she replayed her audition on YouTube. Under the video title, "The Voice That Moved Millions," the view count was already climbing faster than she could blink. 20,000. 50,000. 100,000. She covered her mouth in disbelief. By midnight, it had crossed 1 million. Comments poured in by the thousands. Some were simple, beautiful. I'm crying. Others, felt like pieces of people's souls being handed to her. I lost my wife last year. Your song reminded me that I'm still here, and that's enough. I was planning to quit music. Then I saw you sing. Now I won't. You made me believe in second chances again. Emma scrolled through every message, her heart swelling with something she hadn't felt in years, worth. The same voice she once hid out of shame was now healing people she'd never even met. News outlets began to pick up her story. Unknown singer leaves AGT judges in tears. The rejected girl whose song broke the internet. Clips of her performance played on morning shows, radio hosts spoke about her resilience, and social media flooded with hashtags like #StillHere and #EmmaCarterAGT. But it wasn't just numbers or fame, it was connection. Real people across the world found pieces of themselves in her song. A young boy in a hospital bed uploaded a video of himself softly singing her lyrics, captioned, "Emma, I'm fighting cancer, but your song makes me feel strong. I'm still here too." A former soldier sent her an email from overseas. "I've seen darkness most people can't imagine. But when I heard your voice, I remembered there's still light left in this world." Emma watched those messages, tears streaming down her cheeks, whispering, "Thank you," again and again. For the first time, she realized, her pain had become her purpose. Days turned into weeks, and the numbers never stopped rising. Millions had watched. Millions had felt something. But for Emma, it wasn't about the fame. It was about that quiet, unspoken miracle, that somehow, by being honest, by being vulnerable, she had given people hope. Late one night, as she sat by her window with her guitar, the city lights shimmering below, she softly strummed the tune of "Still Here." The world outside was sleeping, but Emma knew, someone, somewhere, was listening. Someone who needed that reminder that they too were still standing. And as the final note drifted into the night, she smiled through her tears. The girl once rejected by everyone had now found her place, not on a stage, but in the hearts of millions. Her voice had done what no words could, it had connected humanity. The grand finale of America's Got Talent was nothing like Emma had imagined it years ago, back when she was just a trembling girl holding a borrowed guitar. Now, as she stood backstage surrounded by flashing lights, bustling crew members, and the hum of anticipation, she felt a strange stillness inside her, a peace she hadn't known before. It wasn't about winning anymore. It was about standing tall, singing again, and proving to herself that she belonged here. As her turn approached, she looked down at her guitar, the same one her father had fixed with duct tape when she was 16. She ran her fingers gently over the worn wood, smiling softly. "We made it, Mom," she whispered to the heavens. "We really made it." The stage manager gave her a nod. "Emma Carter, you're up next." She took a deep breath, her heart pounding in rhythm with the audience's roar. The doors opened, and a flood of light washed over her. The massive stage, the glittering crowd, the 4 judges, all waiting. Simon Cowell smiled faintly, recognition flickering in his eyes. "Welcome back, Emma," he said. "After what you did in your audition, we've been waiting for this." Emma nodded, her voice steady but soft. "This song is for everyone who ever felt like they weren't enough." The lights dimmed again. The world fell silent. Then, the first chord. Her new song, "I'm Still Singing," began like a whisper and grew into a storm. It wasn't a song about pain this time, it was about triumph. It carried the echoes of every rejection, every sleepless night, every tear shed, now transformed into strength. The crowd swayed, hands over hearts. Her voice filled the theater like light breaking through clouds. Every lyric shimmered with gratitude, for the strangers who believed, for the millions who listened, for the second chance she never thought she'd get. When the final note came, she held it, pure, soaring, unshaken, before lowering her gaze, tears streaming freely down her face. And then it happened. A long pause. Simon leaned forward. His hand hovered over the golden buzzer. The audience gasped. With one firm press, boom, gold confetti exploded into the air, raining down in a storm of light and color. The crowd erupted. The judges stood. Emma fell to her knees, overwhelmed by joy and disbelief. Simon spoke softly through the roar. "You reminded us why we do this. You reminded us what music is supposed to be, real, human, healing. You're a star, Emma." As the confetti glistened like a golden snowfall around her, Emma looked up, laughing and crying all at once. For so long, she had chased validation. But tonight, she realized, she didn't need the world's approval to shine. She had already found what mattered, her truth, her purpose, and her voice. And that voice had just echoed through the hearts of millions. The golden confetti slowly settled on the stage like falling stars, each piece glimmering against the bright lights as Emma stood there, frozen between disbelief and pure joy. Her knees trembled, her breath uneven, but her heart felt lighter than it ever had before. The crowd was still on their feet, cheering, crying, clapping for the girl who once sang only to her reflection in the dark. Simon's words still echoed in her mind, "You reminded us what music is supposed to be, real, human, healing." She smiled through the tears. For the first time, she didn't feel like she was chasing something. She had found something, something she'd carried all along. After the show, when the lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, Emma stepped outside into the cool Los Angeles night. The city shimmered with life, sirens in the distance, laughter spilling from open windows, the hum of dreams being chased in every direction. She sat on a nearby bench, clutching her guitar, still dusted with specks of gold. Her phone buzzed non-stop, calls from reporters, messages from fans, offers from record labels, but she ignored them all for a moment. Instead, she opened her mother's old locket and whispered, "We did it, Mom. They finally heard me." But even as tears filled her eyes, she realized this moment wasn't just about her. It was about every person who'd ever been told, "You're not enough." Every kid who'd been laughed at for dreaming too big. Every voice that had gone unheard because the world wasn't ready to listen. Days later, her final performance video reached over 100 million views. Clips of people singing her song, children, grandparents, hospital patients, teachers, filled social media. Her lyrics had become a movement. A symbol of endurance, of hope, of refusing to be silenced. Emma was invited to speak on talk shows, perform at charity events, and even visit schools where children sang, "Still Here," in choirs. Everywhere she went, people told her the same thing. "Your song gave me strength. Your story made me believe again." And every time, Emma smiled and said softly, "It wasn't just my story, it was ours." Months later, standing on the same AGT stage during the finale, Emma looked out over the massive audience, now confident, radiant, but still humble. The judges smiled proudly. The lights reflected in her eyes like constellations. She lifted the microphone and said, "Once, I thought rejection was the end. But now I know, rejection is just a redirection towards something greater. You just have to keep singing through the silence." The audience erupted in applause once more, but this time, Emma didn't cry. She stood tall, smiling through the noise, knowing her voice wasn't just heard, it was felt. From rejection to recognition, she had become something far more powerful than a winner. She had become a reminder that even the softest voice can move the world, if it dares to keep singing.